Hi, everyone. We are back for another masterclass today. And today we're actually going to focus on something that we recently spoke about in a podcast of ours. And it's all about the word expensive and thinking about different alternatives to that particular word. And the reason you might want to have alternatives to that word is that it might seem a little bit direct, let's say, to say that something is a little bit expensive. You know, you have a supplier, or so, you might be in a meeting of some kind, and somebody proposes something to you, and you want to express the idea of it being expensive in a different way, maybe in a softer way, maybe not quite so obvious that you're saying, well, that's just a little bit too expensive for us, right? So as usual, Alistair is here with me. Hi, Alistair. How are you doing?
Hi, Daniel.
Good. You're doing fine, right? Yeah, but we've got some alternatives, right? We've got some alternatives to this word expensive, right?
We have, yes, which I think are good. And not only for business, obviously you can use them in any sense when you're talking about things being expensive.
Yeah.
Restaurants or whatever. And obviously these days we're all very conscious of things being the cost of living, good expression.
Absolutely.
Rising. What do they call it in England? There's an expression people keep using all the time.
Yeah.
Cost of living crisis or something like that.
Yes, absolutely.
But everything, fuel, petrol or gas, as they say in USA, electricity, food in the supermarket, everything you can think of seems to be going up and up now. So we're very conscious of this concept of things being expensive or getting more and more expensive, it seems.
That's right.
Every day,
That's right.
It's quite useful to have other words to describe that situation where things
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's go for the first one. And the first one is all very much connected to the whole idea of, something being expensive. It has a certain price, right? And that price is high. And so you can say that something is pricey. It's a bit pricey, right, Alistair? That's what you can say. Yeah, which is kind of a nice
taking the noun, the price of something, and then turning it into an adjective, adding a Y, which we do a lot in English to create adjectives from nouns, add Ys. And so you say, oh, it's a bit, often when I think we use pricey, maybe not super expensive. It's a little bit expensive. You say, oh, it's a bit, often with the word bit, oh, I think it's a bit pricey.
It's a bit pricey, yeah.
A little bit pricey, don't you think?
Yeah.
So a little bit expensive, bit more than you would expect to pay for that thing. That's the way I would use it. Perhaps, it's a bit pricey. What about that restaurant? So you go, well, it's okay, it's good, but the food is a bit pricey.
Yeah.
So a little bit above the average you would expect for that type of restaurant. No?
Exactly right. So yeah, that's one option that works very nicely. I think that can be used throughout the world, the English-speaking world, right? That's not just in the UK.
I think it's universal.
Pricey. Yeah. Pricey, yeah. Something is a bit pricey. And as you say, it doesn't mean that it's extravagantly expensive. It just means that it's a little bit over the average. So, yeah.
Maybe what you said about the negotiation in business, it's a softer word than saying, oh, that's expensive or that's too expensive. Say it's a little bit pricey. Maybe we can negotiate that price down a bit.
That's true.
Slightly softer, perhaps, negotiating with a supplier or a client.
That's right.
To use the word pricey rather than expensive.
You can say, actually, you can combine it with the word side, can't you? It's on the pricey side. Can't you say that? Yeah,
you can say that. Very good. You hadn't thought that. A bit on the pricey side. It's quite a sort of classic little phrase people use now. I think that's a bit on the pricey side. Don't you think? Could you reduce it a bit?
Yeah.
So in a negotiation, that's quite useful.
It is really, because you're not just kind of hammering it in terms of like saying, well, that's expensive, because saying something expensive is quite final, right? It's not really you're not really negotiating there, because you're
it's like
saying
there isn't a negotiation. It's just an absolute. No?
Yeah.
You say, well, I think that's a bit on the pricey side. I'm sure you can give me a better offer than that. So reducing by, 5% so it's not a huge margin of difference maybe, but you're asking for, I think it's a little bit above what I would expect to pay or what the average market price is for that particular thing.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying really when you say a bit pricey.
Yeah. The second word is kind of really interesting as well, because it always reminds me of a mountain or a hill or something like that. And because, if you suddenly have to walk up a hill or cycle up a hill or drive up a hill is not so bad. But you would certainly, the moment that you'd be walking or cycling up a hill, you would certainly be thinking about how steep that particular hill is or was, right? Yeah. And
so you need a lot more effort. Obviously, if a hill is at this angle, very inclined, it's extremely difficult to walk up and cycle up.
That's right. That's right.
So it's hard work walking
Absolutely.
up a steep hill.
That's right. And so the word here that we want to focus on is the actual word steep. So you can describe a mountain or a hill or some sort of area of land as being very steep, because it's like the gradient is very
gradient. That's very high gradient. No?
Yeah.
So it's not flat, it's steep.
That's right.
With the high gradient, whatever percentage gradient. Often in cycling and things, they talk about, it's a 5%, a 10%, a 12% gradient, which is hard work on a bike.
Absolutely. And this can then be transferred to the price of something as well. So, if you say, that's a bit steep, again, we might combine it to soften it as well. In many, we might use bit or quite.
It's quite steep.
Yeah,
steep. It's steep as an absolute. It's very steep,
or a little steep. Well, you can combine it with all sorts of different words, but it just basically means the same as pricey. It means that something is a little bit higher than you would imagine, and maybe not exactly the value that you are willing to pay. Right?
Sort of elevado. It's elevated. It's above. It's expensive. Is what you think is expensive.
Absolutely.
It's not reasonably priced.
Good.
We often talk about prices being reasonable or unreasonable. So if you think it's unreasonably expensive, you could say, yes, it's like, it's a bit steep, or that's very steep, or
exactly right. So it's a really good one as well. So we got pricey and we got steep, and we got a third one, which is overpriced. Okay, overpriced. So you're using the word priced again with a D at the end. This overpriced with also a prefix, isn't it? It's called a prefix. I think.
Over. Meaning above, I suppose.
Yes.
No, higher.
Yeah. So something is overpriced. Yeah. Like food might be overpriced, or whatever type of product you're talking about.
Restaurant
can be
overpriced.
Yeah. A property but you might be wanting to buy a house, and you can say, the thing is that's a little bit overpriced for that particular area, or whatever you might
So again, it's coming back to, you have an idea of what you think is the market price for a particular property or in a particular area, as you say, and you feel that somebody is asking a higher price than that, above the norm or the average. So to you I think it's overpriced, or a bit overpriced.
Yeah.
Bit steep, bit pricey.
That's right.
So they're all connected. No, it's sort of above what you expect to pay. Or, you just go to an Italian restaurant and the pizzas, instead of being, I don't know, what you think is the average in a particular place for pizza would be, I don't know, 12 euros, 13. You go there, 15, 16. You go, it's a bit overpriced, this pizza, don't you think?
Yeah, sure.
More than you would expect or want to pay. In your opinion, it's quite subjective, obviously. So what one person thinks is overpriced, maybe somebody else thinks is perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. We've got three options there. We've got pricey, which is a nice one, another steep, and then overpriced. And so your challenge is to use those in the Fluency community, record yourself using those. Obviously, you can think of the original sentence using expensive, but then just replace that word expensive with steep, pricey, or overpriced, just so that we start to stretch your vocabulary a little bit more. And so they get used to those words, right? So that people get used to those words, they kind of add them to the vocabulary that they feel very comfortable with. That's essentially the challenge. And if you can, record yourself, that would be fantastic. And then Alistair can...
Please, I'll comment. I'll watch them and comment. So it's basically tell a little story, little anecdote about anything really, where it's in the business, in your work situation or private situation, about something that maybe you bought recently, or a restaurant you went to recently, or whatever it may be, something you bought or didn't buy. More likely you didn't buy it because you thought it was overpriced, or a bit pricey, or a bit steep. So tell us anything using those, try to use those three words, or at least two of the three.
Yeah, good. And for any of you who are watching this on YouTube and you're not part of the Fluency community, you can have a taster by clicking the link below and jumping into the 7-day free Fluency challenge. So that's, you can get an idea about what the whole idea of Fluency community is completely for free. So that's it for today, Alistair. Thank you very much. Great to have you with me as usual. And I'll see you again next week. Okay.
Thank you. Cheers.
All right. Speak soon.
Bye.
See you then. Bye-bye.